What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. We just got done watching AEW Full Gear 2020, so we're going to give you the full recap, break down all the results, talk about our review of the whole situation, what we liked, what we didn't like, so on and so forth. We invite you to do the same thing in the comments below. We'll talk about that in a moment, but first you might be wondering, who are we? Well, if you're brand new to the show and you don't know, I am your host as always, Tony Mango. Joining me as always is Callum Wiggins.
Tony, this pay-per-view was the second best reason to celebrate today.
Is the first best reason that I ate pizza?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty good pizza.
And then the Biden thing is a distant third.
Yeah, I mean that's not a real big thing. It's not like people are celebrating in the streets for that. I mean, clearly because of the pizza. I've been hearing lots of sirens. You might be hearing sirens. If that's the case, I can't silence them, nor would I really want to. But yeah, noises in the background. You might hear some woo, and based off of the trend of the day, something like "It did, fun motherfuckers, yeah," like that kind of thing. Outside of the normal echo and everything that I'm in my my alternative setup here. So let me know if you think about the levels as well. Yeah, I know that last time around we were in a situation where I was really loud compared to everybody else. I think I might have figured it out. Maybe I'm a little bit low now. Let me know. Drop that comment in the same spots that you'd be dropping the comments for the pay-per-view talk, because if you are over on particularly the YouTube side of things, that's the best way for you to drop a comment. While you're over there, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the little notification bell, hit the applause button, hit the join button. If you don't know what that is, it's the same as the Patreon. So go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment. Check out the tiers there. You've heard it a million times from me. I'm not going to run it down today. It's 12 something or whatever. So we're going to kind of breeze through. I'm not going to plug everything. Really quickly, though, if you do want to pick up some merchandise, go ahead and check them out on TeePublic and Redbubble. You can find those shops on the website. Just look under the merchandise shops section of the little menu navigation bar and go to fanboysanonymous.com and do everything that you would do for the Smark Out Moment side of things over on Fanboys Anonymous. My plugs are mostly out of the way. There you go. So let's start getting into the pay-per-view talk. Let's start off with the buy-in. It's an hour long. It's one match. It's basically the same way that WWE does things. This was for the NWA Women's World Championship. Allison Kay coming up short against Serena Deeb. Not much for me to talk about here. It's going to be a running theme, actually, for me. I don't have a lot of opinions about a couple of the different matches. Some of them I have a lot more. This was one of the ones that it was a match. It was fine. I didn't really think anything of it. What about you?
It was a very professional wrestling match. I just feel like they just did what they needed to do, got in there, got out. I think that if this is the standard that we can expect from the women's division going forward, hopefully, then they're on the right track, because it wasn't super spectacular, but what they did was effective. I think they should make every effort to sign Allison Kay, because she's clearly somebody who is experienced and can handle matches of this type going forward. So, yeah, I thought that it was a good match, but not much more to say beyond that.
Yeah, nothing spectacular, nothing awful. Just, it's fine.
Yeah.
I will have to say, though, unfortunately, I was underwhelmed with Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. Maybe I just built it up way too much, and that when you do that, you get your expectations really high. Even if something's good, it's still a letdown. So I'm not going to say that it's a bad match, because it wasn't a bad match. But I wanted this to be match of the year. Oh my God, amazing, blows out WWE type of thing. And I was just like, this felt like it could have been two other people to me. Didn't feel like it was Page and Omega.
So, first of all, I just wanted to bring up the fact that when we didn't mention in the post-match of the Deeb and Kay match that Thunder Rosa came out to challenge Serena Deeb again. So they may be getting closer and closer to signing Thunder Rosa. So that would be another good sign for their women's division.
Yeah.
In regards to the Omega and Page thing, I feel like it was a very good match in my mind. I don't think it hit the super spectacular heights that many people were expecting it to, but I'm almost kind of happy that it didn't, because, and I think this is again going to be an ongoing thing for me throughout this show, is that this is a match that is clearly going to have a rematch in a year and a half's time, maybe. And so I think that it's good to just leave a little bit on the table to come back to later on because you don't want to blow your load completely on the first try. And I think, like you say, it could have been more in certain instances, but I think they told a good story. I think the story they're a bit telling is the idea that Omega is just still one step ahead of Adam Page, and Adam Page came close to escaping the one-winged angel at the end of it by just like being able to dodge away from it, but end up succumbing to it, couldn't kick out because no one kicks out the one-winged angel. And he looks pretty despondent after it because he feels like that's his big break gone. See what the future holds for him, but the future for Kenny is obviously the World Championship, at least an opportunity towards it. But yeah, I think that they did enough here to interest me in seeing a rematch down the line and not make me feel too disappointed in the opener.
One thing that I am liking a lot is their intros where it's like all these stats that prove that Omega is better than his opponent. I like that little touch.
Oh yeah, those bits good. I mean, I'm a huge fan of their video packages as well, and obviously you see a lot of them if you watch both the buy-in and all the other stuff they go through, and the Road to Full Gear series is kind of just a retread of those, but they are very well produced. It's I mean, I like WWE's production values in that regard as well, but I think AEW takes it in a slightly different direction. I'm not saying it's significantly better than WWE's, but it's just it feels more organic and real coming from AEW's more than the glitz and glamour and the drama that WWE goes for.
What do you think about the girls with the broom?
I mean, I can't. I don't know really if there's anything to say about it beyond the fact that I don't think that there's anything like egregious about it or anything like that. I think it's the idea that Kenny is a heel who's trying to show off in his entrance. He wants to have the most spectacular entrance in AEW, and to do that, he needs women in bikinis holding brooms up. So
when they did it the first time, I thought it was better. This time around, I'm like, all right, these girls are just sort of bouncing back and forth, and I'm fine with like not having that happen every single week, you know?
Maybe not, but I feel like he's going to get more. He's going to get slightly different entrances from time to time. Maybe there'll be someone when there's like, I don't know, half a dozen women in bikinis, but I guess maybe that's like a post-COVID thing.
Yeah,
maybe they can only do two at the moment, and that's like the only thing they can get away with.
Yeah, so I was underwhelmed with that match. Kenny Omega wins, but they followed it up with maybe my favorite match of the night, which was John Silver versus Orange Cassidy. These two were a lot of fun. They lived up to the expectations of being athletic as hell and goofy. Like I like the part where John Silver rips out Cassidy's pockets and eats them. Like that's fun. Yeah, this was a lot of fun from start to finish. This was, if not my favorite match of the night, my second favorite.
It was definitely a lot of fun. I would definitely want to class it up there as one of my favorite matches, just because at the end of the day, it's two people that, even though I think have a lot of potential and definitely entertain me in the ring, what they're doing is not significant in the grand scheme of things. It just, this is just a nice little distraction match, which is, it's some good work, some comedy at the start, then they actually get into the proper wrestling. John Silver, and again, this is another thing that I don't think we've able to say too much about an AEW show, at least from my perspective. I thought JR was great on commentary tonight, and I thought everybody was actually really good on commentary. And JR in particular was really getting over the strength and like power that John Silver has. The idea that he's like this really small guy, but he can just throw Orange Cassidy around. I love the spot where he holds him up with one hand in a gorilla press. It's just like, okay, they really have something with this. Like, I don't want to say they want to go with the same way the WWE tried to do with Neville with this Mighty Mouse character. But don't go that far. But they've got this little powerhouse that they could have a lot of fun with.
That means he's totally feuding with Pac then.
I mean, I wouldn't be against it. That would be fun as well.
Just the winner gets to be Mighty Mouse. Yeah, Silver's great, and Cassidy, of course, he's more than proven himself as great at this point. So I'm glad to see that Silver's getting a little bit more recognition. He deserves it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Maybe I don't know if you can like rank up in the Dark Order because he's currently 4.
Yeah, you mean like he adds a couple more numbers to his name?
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I assume the smaller the number, the more highly positioned you are. Because I assume Evil Uno is like second in command.
I don't know. It's weird because it seems like Anna Jay is the best. like she's the one that's treated more seriously, and people are afraid of her, and she's 99.
Uh,
But you would think that Mr. Brody Lee would be basically the number one, but then there's Evil Uno, and he's number one. Stu Grayson's number two. Stu Grayson or whatever. But there seems to be no delineation as far as like Alan Angels is 5 versus Preston Vance is 10.
I guess
where's 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually 9 I think popped up at one point. Just like one random guy, and they're like, he's 9, that kind of thing. But Silver's great, and Orange Cassidy wins as expected, as what should happen since he's the bigger star of the two. Later on in the night, Orange Cassidy would be there with Best Friends and Miro and Kip Sabian, and would basically just leave after getting slapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's transitioning onto a feud between, like, obviously the Best Friends have been feuding with Miro and Kip Sabian, but they're adding Orange Cassidy into the mix. I assume this is going to lead into probably the biggest match out of that series. Will probably end up being a match between Miro and Orange Cassidy.
Yeah. Something to play out over the course of the next month or so, and maybe the two of them fight at Revolution or something. Well, that's probably too far away. Yeah, that's February. I'm thinking that's January. Yeah. Probably not that then. Probably just on Dynamite. We moved over from that to the Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin match for the TNT Championship. Cody is going by Cody Rhodes, so the whole I'm not going to do it thing, just a fake out for no reason. I don't really know why. I guess to get an extra little bit of a pop. But glad to see that that's the case, because he should go by Cody Rhodes.
I appreciated the start of it, because they announced him as Cody Rhodes, and then the crowd starts chanting just Cody Rhodes, like chanting his full name constantly. And then they cheer Mike Yoda as announced as the referee for it. So I thought, basically, okay, why not just go the whole hog and just rip up a giant WWE logo during the entrance as well?
I don't know about like specifics about this match. I didn't write down a whole lot. I don't know. I'm sour on the idea of Darby Allin as TNT champion for some reason, despite the fact that he is an entertaining guy. Like, I really kind of, at the end of this, Darby Allin wins the title. And at the end of this, he gets attacked by Team Taz. And my first thought was basically like, well, the attack at the end was kind of bland. And I just kind of want Ricky Starks or Brian Cage to win the championship now. Like, I already want a new TNT champion, and that shouldn't be the way that I'm thinking, because he just won the title. Give him a chance, you know what I mean? But it was good. It was just like, I don't care. I feel bad saying that, but
I mean, I enjoyed the story they were telling. Once I actually watched the big promo package they put together for this, it started to just frame into my mind about the idea that this is the 4th time these guys have met, and Darby hasn't got a win over Cody. So the way they were talking about, with the way that Cody was saying, okay, if Darby loses this one, and when he does lose this one, it's like he'll just be one of those guys who everyone says is the future of the industry but never delivers. And so as soon as he said that, I went, okay, Darby's got to win this now, because otherwise you're really putting this guy on the back foot. And so I wasn't surprised when Allin ended up winning. I thought the way they went about it was good, because Cody, he comes out with this giant entourage to start with, and then obviously Arn Anderson is in the corner with him, and he outpowers Allin, and he's throwing him around. He's getting cocky in certain places. Anderson's trying to keep him focused and trying to keep him like intent on just attacking Allin. I thought Allin did an excellent job of selling the arm throughout the match. He doesn't really go back to using the left arm at any other point, which we can talk about wasn't so successfully done in another match later on. But there was some good selling. Allin managed to put together a fight back. He kicks out, he gets his foot under the rope from a avalanche crossroads, which is a nice spot. Cody kicks out the coffin drop. They trade roll-ups and stuff like that until Allin manages to get him down for 3 seconds. So you can see Cody bestows him the title, so Cody is remaining a babyface, at least for the time being. Anderson on the outside, though, he looks frustrated, so maybe if it's not Cody turning heel, it's Anderson at some point turning heel and siding with some other guy to take Cody out eventually. And maybe that could be the direction for him going forward. the attack wasn't super spectacular, but at least it sets up, okay, this is the crash course for Darby now, is that he's going to be challenged by either Cage or Starks, and probably both, one after the other. Because maybe the most intriguing thing of the post-match beatdown was the fact that they both reached for the TNT Championship and had a stare down with each other over it.
Yeah, because Brian Cage knows that the FTW title isn't a title.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just like they both just reached for the TNT title, and so Taz has to like stop them from going after each other and start turning on Allin and Rhodes. So yeah, that's an interesting dynamic as well for that team as well. But so yeah, at least Allin has challenges going forward, and hopefully can have, if not a long, then at least a successful and entertaining enough reign as TNT champion.
We moved then on to the Women's World Championship match for the AEW side of things, not the NWA. And Cody had talked about how this didn't need a build. And it's like essentially shut up, they're going to have a good match and then you'll fucking stop complaining. This wasn't as good as their last one, I think. It was fine, but it was like I could have done without it. I could have done with taking this off of the card and ending it a little bit earlier, and I would have been fine.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't as good as their previous match. I think that I've got more faith in Nyla Rose now than I previously had, in the idea that before I thought that she was kind of botch heavy and wasn't particularly good overall. Now I think that I'm not saying she's spectacular by any stretch of imagination, but she's definitely on the right path. So she's having more okay to good matches now more frequently than previously. So that's a positive sign. She's improving. Shida's great just because she shows a lot of fire as a baby face. She shows a lot of aggression. She has great kicks and stuff like that. But it's just the idea that, again, that was a slight issue with the fact that I said how much I enjoyed Allin's selling of the arm in this one. They take out Shida's leg in this one, and then she's using the leg pretty much consistently throughout the rest of the match, and that was slightly problematic. But I guess if your finishing move is that running knee to the face over and over again, then I guess you kind of have to use it. So maybe not target the right leg when you're doing that.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the ending. It just felt like it fell flat to me.
I can kind of see that. I kind of like a finish where you've hit your big move. It's a very New Japan style finish where you hit your big move, but hit a big move, someone kicks out, and so you have to hit another move to actually keep them down. So I kind of like the concept of like her kicking out of the running knee, and so Shida just knees her in the face repeatedly until she's knocked out, and then pins her again. So I think they could have done it better because it didn't look as good as maybe it could have done, but I like the concept of the finish in general.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's just me not knowing a whole bunch of the New Japan style and not being used to that kind of a finish. Maybe I kind of felt like it was just like, I don't know, she just kicked her a bunch of times and it's the end. Like, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think in concept it can work with the idea that you have to just hit them repeatedly, like just knock them out. It's the same way like that. It's basically like a less notable finish to the that Rock Austin match at WrestleMania 17, where Austin just beats Rock repeatedly with a steel chair until he pins him. So it's like that, only with a knee to the face instead.
What was the next match? The next match was the World Tag Team Championship match.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we wanted to talk about the fact that post-match, Vicky and Nyla Rose essentially have a screaming match at each other before Vicky slaps her and leaves. So I guess they're teasing that breakup down the road.
Yeah, I don't know if I really want to track that story either. When they started teasing that, I'm like, all right, then Vicky can leave.
It'll give Nyla something to do with the fact that she's no longer going to be in the title picture.
You think that they're going to turn her face, or just
eventually? I don't see. It seems odd to me that she's not a baby face, because surely the story of like being the first, like, or maybe not the first, but like a prominent transgender professional wrestler would probably endear you more to being a baby face down the road than being a heel.
I think it'll come after Baker wins the title.
Yeah, that could be sense. That could make sense. Like she could be a baby face that challenges Britt Baker down the line.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, we don't know when that's going to happen. It might happen at Revolution. Revolution is going to take place February 27th.
Yeah, I kind of feel like at the moment there's got to be a lot of big dynamites now in between it. I doubt that all the people that are holding titles now will still be holding them by the time Revolution comes around.
I think if anybody would drop one, it would probably be Darby.
I think Darby, Moxley, and Shida will all drop the titles before Revolution.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Huh.
I mean, it's just the way that, especially they said about the Omega thing, is that Omega is next in line for the title, and
That's true.
they're not going to be able to stretch that. Well, they shouldn't at the very least stretch that out for 3+ months.
Yeah, and when they did the Brian Cage, got a blank on the name of it, for Double or Nothing, Casino ladder match. That's what it was.
Yeah.
When he won that, it seemed like it was like, oh, okay, well, he's gonna fight him at All Out, and they did it like a couple of weeks later. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, maybe they do a little bit of a kind of like Fyter Fest. Maybe they do a little bit of a special episode of Dynamite around like New Year's or something.
Yeah, I'm not exactly keen on the idea of them wasting I'd say wasting, but like using the Omega and Moxley match on TV to try and pop a big rating rather than to use it to try and get some more pay-per-view buys. But I just don't see how they could stretch it out for 3.5 months. If they can, then good on them, but I don't see that happening really.
They probably think, oh, we don't even know if they're going to do anything, but like they probably would think that maybe if they do it on the TV thing, they could pop a rating. And then if they do a rematch and it's some kind of gimmicky rematch or something, that people will pay for that.
Yeah, I imagine they would do.
So the World Tag Team Championship match, Young Bucks against FTR. I still don't think it was as good as it could have been in my mind, but one of, if not the best match of the night.
Yeah, it was an excellent tag team match. I can't really fault it too much. I don't think it's as good as the match from Revolution. So
the Omega and Page one is better, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not the best tag team match that AEW ever produced. But then again, this is a match that will be rematched down the line. So again, I think that they've performed with each other. They know a bit more about what they can and can't do. It told a good story throughout. Like, obviously, the idea going into was the Matt's leg injury. And so they obviously played on that quite a bit with Matt selling the leg quite a while. But they also added an extra element, which is Dax Harwood punching the ring post. And getting... I don't know whether he was supposed to get cut up the way that he did. Because that looked like it might have been like just a mishap that happened. So he had to go to the trainer. But I guess the hand injury was supposed to play into a lot of it. So, okay, basically one person from each side has got a bad will in one way or the other, and that fed into a lot of what each other was doing. So I appreciate that. I also appreciate the constant references to other tag teams' moves. So there was like a heart attack. There was the
Sharpshooter.
The Steiner assisted. The Steiner assisted Bulldog, the Twist of Fate Swanton, the 3D. They were doing a lot of old classic tag teams moves in this.
I'm glad also that the Young Bucks won. Yep. So we don't have to do the whole never going to challenge for a championship thing again.
I kind of appreciate, now that they did win, I kind of appreciate them putting that stipulation in. Maybe in a different way than they did before, because it's just the fact that they've done it and they've proved that they can stick to it with Cody. And so it adds a bit of extra layer of jeopardy to the match with the idea of, okay, so they've proved they could do it, so are they going to do it with the Young Bucks? And so you have a bit more doubt about going into it. I think, well, surely the Young Bucks are going to win, but they've already done that with Cody, so maybe they won't win. So I think it actually made it a bit more intriguing about who was going to win it. Because I think if they hadn't added that stipulation in, people would have just assumed that the Revival were going to win.
Yeah.
So I think they added a bit of an extra edge to it. Well, considering the fact that they actually won the match. I also like that, everyone mentioned this bit, is that Cash Wheeler looked in absolutely great shape. Like
he's a deceptively bulky, fit dude.
Yeah, obviously I don't think the Revival should ever split up, but he looks like the one who... And I used to think that it was going to be Harwood that stood up, because he's just got that face and he's got a bit more of a look about him which would stand out a bit more. But it's just the way that obviously Wheeler is very well proportioned, and he did some really cool stuff in this, like that giant spear through the ropes that took out Nick Jackson.
Yeah.
And then he tried to do and then did a springboard 450 splash, which I never would ever associate with the Revival. Just that was cool, and I think that's the best way of ending it with the finish as well. Is the idea that he decided, okay, I'm going to take a page out of the Young Bucks book, try and do this massive 450 splash, completely missed it, and then gets kicked in the face and is pinned. So
yeah, pretty simple, pretty outright.
Yeah, I think that there's plenty more to come from these guys going forward, but I feel like this was a very, very well put together tag team match. And yeah, they'll have, I assume, even better matches in the coming. I assume they'll probably have a rematch sometime in the coming year, and that will probably be even better.
I also liked at the end that Kenny Omega came out to celebrate with them, and they had Adam Page on the stage. So it's like he's out there to celebrate, but he knows that he's like kind of on the outs of this group and still a loner, that kind of thing. That was a nice little touch.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic between those four now, because now Omega's in line for the title and Young Bucks are champs now, and Adam Page is now the black sheep, really. That kind of feel like after a year or so in Dynamite, maybe the story would be like he hasn't fulfilled his potential. He hasn't realized anything, even though he was obviously tag team champion for a while. He feels like the one who's not progressing out of the group.
Yeah. Cody's been 2-time TNT champion. Which I don't think that he was supposed to be originally 2-time champion. I think that he was supposed to first drop it to Darby, but Young Bucks won their titles. Omega's got his kind of thing going on. Yeah, it makes sense. And then, of course, big grand finale of that whole storyline is when he beats Omega. Ideally.
Yep. Oh yeah. I imagine that'll be the long-term plan.
Probably all out, I would think.
I think it might even be longer than that. I think you want to give Kenny a pretty decently long reign. So it might be that thing, but I think that you could even stretch this out to not so much all out the year following, but probably sometime like maybe even Double or Nothing in 2022 or something.
I guess a lot of it depends on COVID too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think they would like to have that match in front of a crowd.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though they had a crowd here, obviously not a big one, but they did have one.
Yeah, it's 1,000 people or something. It's a big difference from nothing, but there's a big difference between 1,000 and 10,000.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But like even just having 1,000 people in it just felt like more exciting to watch this show than other completely empty arena shows.
Yeah, like the typical WWE ones that we've been watching.
Yeah.
Then we moved on to something completely silly. It was the Elite Deletion match. This was at the Hardy compound, and they kind of checked the boxes that we were expecting to. Honestly, it's one of my least favorite ones that they've done out of these that I've seen. It feels like they've already kind of thought of everything. I liked the fireworks. That was fun.
The fireworks fight, yeah. I think that's very much taken from previous Ultimate Deletion style matches, because I remember, I don't know whether it was the one with Hardy or between both Hardys. Obviously Matt Hardy's always involved, but like between like both Hardys, where they had a giant fireworks fight off, and Matt took refuge under the dilapidated boat, which made an appearance this one. I think this match, I'm not saying it was like the most superior like cinematic match that they've ever done, but it's just the idea of it rewarded you for people that have paid attention to the entire like Hardy, broken Matt Hardy narrative, because there were a lot of Easter eggs in this that would feature from like previous editions of this stuff.
Now, I thought it was interesting that not only Hurricane Helms popped up in this, but Gangrel.
Yeah, that was I don't think anyone could have imagined that Gangrel would have been appearing in this one, but apparently he was invested in Sammy Guevara's development growing up. So essentially, for a period, it devolved from just Hardy against Sammy Guevara into an 8-man tag. In Private Party, Hurricane Helms, Proud and Powerful, and Gangrel. And so, I mean, that was pretty cool. I did honestly like the beginning where like Guevara arrives in the golf cart,
Yeah.
and Hardy's behind him in a monster truck, and he just runs down. Like he assumes that he's run over Sammy Guevara in the monster truck,
Yeah.
and he comes out and says he feels absolutely orgasmic about it. So,
Yeah. Silly, stupid, ridiculous,
yeah,
goofy fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think if you like cinematic matches in general, then I think. No, I'm not saying you'll absolutely love it, but I think you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of this match. But if you hate cinematic matches, then you are gonna absolutely like hate this as well. And I can't say there's anything wrong with taking either side really. If it was something different on the pay per view. It was something completely removed from basically any other match on the card. So I appreciated it for that.
Then we had MJF successfully beating Chris Jericho.
We not
came out.
Who won?
Matt Hardy won. Well,
yeah, that's the idea because it was quite a goofy match. Obviously, there was quite a bit of physicality involved in it, but it was a pretty goofy match in general. And then it ends with a chair shot to the back of the head. Just like, okay, that's like a pretty decisive and violent way of ending it. I almost thought that Hardy was turning heel after that.
And they played off the whole bonking the head on the concrete thing.
Yeah. But then it goes back to the goofy side of things, them celebrating in front of fireworks with the Hurricane and Rebby Hardy and Senor Benjamin taking him away in a trash can.
Yeah. So maybe he takes a little bit of a leave of absence. Maybe he comes back a couple weeks from now or so. Or maybe he pops up in the next episode of Dynamite.
Well, I guess his place in the Inner Circle has been filled for the time being, at the very least.
Yeah, because MJF and Wardlow are officially in, at least as far as this goes. MJF had come out in like a parody of Jericho's entrance with like the light up jacket and everything. I thought that was funny. And he wins the match by doing like an Eddie Guerrero style thing of kind of being like pretending that he's gotten hit by the baseball bat, but not doing a DQ. He rolls him up, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's a great finish. It was kind of the way that I'd seen the match in my mind, is that they were both trying to out heel each other, because there are a lot of like thumbs in the eyes to people. There was a lot of just trying to use every trick in the book to try and get one over each other. Jericho early on shows a bit more dominance because he's bigger than MJF and he's more experienced, and so he was using an opportunity to just try and beat a bit of maybe just even beat a bit of fire into MJF, so MJF would come fighting back. They did a lot of good stuff. Jericho hit his elbow on the post trying to do a Judas effect, so that was obviously MJF going after the arm with Salt of the Earth. Beyond that point, you had all the usual high points for these ones. You had a Heat Seeker, a Code Breaker, Lion Soul, Wolves of Jericho, Salt of the Earth, all the stuff that you'd expect. Again, I think that they held a little bit back, but then again, this is a match that definitely will be rematched with them in different stages, I guess, really, with MJF probably being the major heel leader of the Inner Circle and Jericho as the veteran babyface, so it'll be a different dynamic. Even though Jericho was pretty much the babyface with this one because everyone loves Chris Jericho.
Yeah, he was totally the babyface here, which he should have been.
I feel bad for him because he lost twice today, didn't he?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know about his babyface status as far as some things go, but
well, we're in Florida. Well, I mean, they are in Florida, so I guess he's popular there.
Yeah, well, according to some ballots at the very least. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where they go from here. That's how you want it to go. Is you want the match to be good, and you want it to end in a way that you want to see the follow up, and that's what happened. So, thumbs up.
Yeah, they were completely warmed up to each other at the end of it. Gave each other a hug. He's completely involved in the Inner Circle now. They showed no signs of discontent between them or anything like that. So yeah, I think that's something we can see for the future, going for the next several months at the very least, and see how it goes from there. I think there's not so much endless possibilities, but there's definitely a multiple number of ways they can go and extend this thing out for quite a while. I imagine that we might get Jericho and MJF again at All Out.
Yeah, I think that might stretch out about that far too. Have like some kind of maybe not even a gimmick match, because maybe by that point people will just be like, oh yeah, like now these two have been tagging up. They might end up being the next tag champs.
Yeah, I think that might actually be a way they decide to go with it, because I know they were telling the story beforehand of Jericho and Jake Hager, but obviously they decided to just drop that And I think that Jericho and MJF makes more sense as a tag team anyway.
Yeah. I don't think that Jake Hager is going to be like necessarily around all that much either.
I mean, he's got his MMA things that he's concentrating on quite a bit, and I think that he works better as like just a heavy for Jericho rather than a prominent in-ring worker.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping him from being a heavy on the outside that helps them in tag matches too.
Yeah.
Well, Wardlow could be that part.
Yeah. Well, it would just be the two of them. I almost feel like there's going to be a point where they're both just, if they were to tag together, then you'd have both Hager and Wardlow on the outside, and they're just getting in each other's face and getting each other's way and stuff, and that leads to a match between those two. So that could be interesting.
And the last one of the night was the I Quit match for the AEW World Championship. Brutal match. Typical like thumbtacks, barbed wire, steel chair, that kind of stuff. Beat the crap out of each other until the point where Eddie Kingston says he quits and Jon Moxley retains the title.
Yeah, it was definitely physical. They definitely brought out the barbed wire bats, the thumbtacks, all the other stuff, steel chairs,
isopropyl alcohol.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was probably the most unique spot that I saw in the entire thing, is the idea that he used thumbtacks and then poured rubbing alcohol over the cuts. So that was just like that was probably the most ingenious and unique thing that I've seen and saw in this entire match. Honestly, I thought this match would be more brutal, and that's probably saying a bit too much because obviously this match was brutal and it was violent, so it can't be too much more than that without ending in some sort of lawsuit. But after seeing earlier this year Walter against Ilya Dragunov from NXT UK, nothing is going to be considered brutal in my mind after that. So it's like, but this match was still really good. It showed Kingston deserved to at least have this one opportunity to main event the show. Moxley did a great job as well with him. They fought around the ring. They brought out the barbed wire at the end. I thought it was a nice touch with. I know some people seem to be upset about the ending seeming flat because you couldn't really hear Kingston say "I quit." I almost thought that added to it with the idea that he's welling up, like he's in absolute tears because he's got barbed wire across his throat, being choked out by Moxley, and then he just has to just very whisperly says "I quit" because you know how much it's hurting him to say those words. And so yeah, I thought it was a really good finish.
So overall, this pay-per-view, I was not as into the majority of it as I was hoping that I would be. I thought it had more potential than it lived up to, but I do think that it was better than All Out.
Oh yeah, it was definitely better than All Out. I think this was. I probably came out of it with more positivity than you did because obviously by the sounds of it, there were certain things that just didn't hit home as much for you as it maybe did for me. And that's totally fine. I can understand either side of it. I think that due to the quality of the match, because I don't think any match was bad, and that's just for even like for an 8 or 9 match pay-per-view card, that's like pretty tricky to do one match not being like either bad or completely skippable. I think the closest you probably get is probably either the Shida and Nyla Rose match, but even that wasn't a bad match. And so I'd say it's one of the strongest pay-per-views of the year in my mind. I enjoyed most of it, and I'd go back and probably watch bits and pieces of it down the line. Not all of it, but yeah, I can see myself going back to watch the main event and the tag team match, and probably even the open, just to see if I can get more out of it on a second watch.
Yeah, so overall, I mean, thumb up. Not the 2 thumbs up amazing, going to go crazy about it, but
I'll go 2. I'll extend the second thumb with an Orange Cassidy second thumb.
I'm watching it with Caroline, and she saw one of the guys in the crowd doing like the Orange Cassidy thing, and she's like, "That dude has a really small thumb," and I'm like, "No, it's a gimmick about it."
Oh yeah, to people in the crowd as well. If you are listening to this and you did attend the show, which is unlikely, but if you were, actually wear the mask over both your nose and your mouth.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that, but then again, it's Florida. So
yeah, exactly.
Are we surprised? Florida's got like the worst out of every area, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
In the world.
Just want to look at the worst of everything. Just turn your eyes to Florida.
Goddamn Florida, man! Why are you ruining it for everybody? So, I mean, that's it. That's the full recap. one of our quicker shows I mentioned before, not too deep to get into. It's not like we're going to go on big rants and everything. So, sorry if you were expecting some kind of like, crazy thing, but sometimes you get an event where it's like, everything's it's fine. Like, some things are good.
Nothing disappointing, but nothing like super show-stealingly spectacular. It was just a lot of good to really good matches. And there's
solid.
Nothing to really be said about that.
So that's at least the end of this, outside of the fact that we're going to fill you in on what's coming up next and everything. If you haven't dropped your comments in the comment section below yet, go ahead and do that. The next thing you're going to be hearing from us is going to be whatever the main event is. I kept saying these past couple of days, the Superstar Scores Undertaker. I forgot that we already did it. We did that in July. So,
we did.
So the way that this year's gone, I've completely forgot that we had done that. So now I got to think of another one. And I thought about maybe bumping the one that we would have done the week after Survivor Series. We might do another Time Machine Dream Team, because we haven't done that in a while. And it's Survivor Series. It's around the time to do that. Either that, or maybe we do one more match Undertaker, just to kind of keep it Undertaker based. And if you have a preference between those two, or if you have any other suggestions what you would like us to do, then drop them in the comments as well, because I will factor that in. If 1,500 people say that they would really like to see Wrestling with the Past just talk about the Undertaker, then we'll do that. If a whole bunch of people say, you know what, we don't want to see one more match Undertaker, we want to see the Time Machine Dream Team, then we'll go with that. Can't really do a fan announce table at this point. Not with my setup that it is for the next week or so, but we will try to factor in any requests possible. And of course, if there is a request that you really want us to do that doesn't necessarily happen, there's also the Pick Your Poison tier on the Patreon. So keep that in mind. And after we do that main event, then it'll be another episode of the Hot Tags, and then another episode of the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast. And that's going to be episode number 21, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it will be episode 21. Obviously, episode 20 dropped earlier today, so if you want to check out if you haven't checked it out already and you're just listening to this and you want to listen to that latest episode, then it's up there on YouTube and on the podcast feeds for you to listen to. Episode 21 will be the go-home show for Survivor Series, so just the final build towards Brock Lesnar and the Big Show in the main event for that. And then there is also some matches featuring all the SmackDown 6. So you have Chavo Guerrero against Edge, Eddie Guerrero against Rey Mysterio, and Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. So a lot of fun matches to watch there. And also beyond that point, we'll also be doing Patreon exclusive episodes for both Super Tuesday and for Survivor Series. Yeah, of course, Survivor Series. So yeah, if you want to check out, if you're at the $10 tier or above, you'll be able to see those in your Patreon feed. So make sure you stay tuned for those. Check out the articles on smartcommander.com, including the power rankings, my weekly contribution. Follow all the events in the Fantasy League where Tony is slowly tripping away at my lead. And Robin White, well, very, very slowly. I think by 2023 you'll be just about there.
Woo!
And Wago and Rob at the bottom are now absolutely dead level. So that's a little storyline to follow there. Just who will finish last in the Fantasy League. But all the other great stuff. Follow me on Twitter at WeekMeister14, and that's all my plugs out of the way.
You can follow me on all the other exploits, not only just on fanboysanonymous.com and smarkoutmoment.com, but at Tony Mango all over the place, at a Mango Tree. And I've got, of course, the Bleacher Report stuff, the wrestling news stuff. Just start clicking around. You'll see plenty of content. And I don't know if I'm going to pop up with any brand new stuff anytime soon. Probably not necessarily in this next week or so, but maybe. Who knows? If it is, you'll find some kind of information about that somewhere on the Facebook, the Twitter, so on and so forth. So in the meantime, just stay focused on the Smark Moment of Fanboy stuff. And when it comes to liking and subscribing and stuff, if you've done all that, then I guess you got all that covered. But that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening to this. That's the most important thing that you can do is listen. And we will see you next time, everybody. And for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment. And we're being counted out.